All right, we're back, everybody, on a Thursday night. Rhori Johnston with you. Our guest tonight, Marla Williams, who's driven in from Cookeville to be with us, so we appreciate that very much. She's managing attorney with the Legal Aid Society as we talk about some of the services that are offered out there for so many people who might need it. Specifically, the focus is on payday lending here in Tennessee. Some critics refer to it as predatory lending, and I'm going to ask Marla. That word predatory is strong, but when you look at this industry, and really I should point out that I think that there are really just a number, there's like a big three, and I had them listed here, of these companies. Here we go. Predatory lending, this is, by the way, I just want to point out, this is an opinion piece from the Memphis Commercial Appeal. Lawrence Turner wrote this, Pastor Lawrence Turner. Predatory lending businesses abound nationwide, but in our state in particular, in fact, national giants like Advance Financial, Check Into Cash, and Title Max. I'm sure all of you know these names because you see their shops and you see their advertising. They were founded in Tennessee and make a mint here thanks to laws that prioritize their interests over borrowers. So in the end, after we discuss all of this, I'm sure we can get into what's going on with our state lawmakers and why won't they toughen up these laws. But tell us a little bit about what you think, why people should avoid some of these loans. Are there title loans, there's payday loans, flex loans, we see them.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, the reason to avoid them is because they are the highest cost loans. Even a credit card is better than these types of loans. Yeah,
and when you say that and you think about interest rates are rising right now, and typical credit card, depending on your credit score, they can be 18, 20%, a little more.
Or more.
So you think that's high. Really, you know, if you really read the fine print of some of these loans, it's eye-popping.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes, Rory, it's not even fine print. Like on a flex loan, for instance, it's not interest. In a lot of these situations, it's not called interest, it's called fees.
Right, and that is important because there are laws on the books here in Tennessee where the lawmakers, our state legislators, are supposed to regulate the interest and kind of put a cap on it. But they found a way around it to make more money, right?
Yeah. For instance, like on a flex loan, the interest is 24%, which is not much more than you pay for credit card interest.
Right.
But the fees, the customary fees, are 255%. So if you add that together, you're paying an APR of 279.5%. So that's why sometimes we see folks who might borrow a couple $1,000s, but they're going to pay back 10 or more in some cases. And
you know, I don't mean to belittle anyone out there who has gone and taken out one of these loans, because when you combine the convenience of the locations, the barrage of advertising, and then someone who is vulnerable, who for whatever reason is cash strapped and needs that money now, they certainly make it easy to get that money. And when you're emotional like that and vulnerable, you may not be paying attention to the details, right?
Exactly.
And the next thing you know, they might come into your office, you know, saying, what do I do?
Right.
How do they follow up if you default on one of these loans? Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Defaulting on, say, for instance, a flex loan, most people come into our office when they've been served with a civil summons. Mm-hmm. That's a civil warrant. Sometimes when borrowers get behind, the business will tell them they're going to get a warrant, and that really scares them. Sometimes they call us before they're sued.
Right, and I should point out that, initially, I've heard stories of big banks and the credit card, you know, with the calls, and they're very aggressive. They're threatening and that, you know, that's on purpose. But in these cases, it goes even farther than that. And someone may think, oh, it's just a few $1,000s, so I've defaulted, I don't have the money right now. They're not going to bother with me. They do.
They do.
They have the resources to do so.
Right. Right. Like I said, they either show up in our office, but what I was going to say is sometimes folks call us before they're sued because they're afraid they're going to be arrested. Because the business told them they're going to get a warrant, and you know, they don't say civil warrants sometimes.
Right.
So these are all these collection of all these loans is strictly a civil matter.
Right.
These are civil matters, not criminal. But folks come in when they've been sued. We can often help folks who've been sued by just going through, getting the account information from the creditor and determining whether they owe the amount that they have been sued for.
Right.
And we have been successful in finding that sometimes they are sued for more than they owe. One thing with the flex loans is that the law does not allow for those fees to continue to be assessed, the customary fees, to be assessed once a borrower breaches.
Right. And describe, in case people don't know, and it's on this sheet, a flex loan.
Okay.
It's an open line of credit.
That's right.
Okay.
A flex loan is an open line of credit, as Rhori said. It's you can be approved for a credit. You have a credit line. Say you can borrow up to $4,000. Of course,
that much.
They do not have to loan you that much. It would depend on whether they felt you qualified for that. But by law, you can borrow up to $4,000 in a flex loan, and you know, then pay that back over time.
And the interest rate, by law, they have to, you know, obviously reveal that up front, so
Right.
you know what you're signing. But I'm reading here, you know, it's the APR for these flex loans is many times higher than traditional lenders, and that leads many customers to then have to borrow additional money just to pay back the original because of the interest.
That's right.
You're in a cycle now.
Yeah, not
right?
just interest, but the fees. Like I said, the
Right.
interest rate on flex loans is 24% by statute.
So state lawmakers can say, hey, you know, that's pretty good. We're capping it at 24%. But they're not doing anything about the fees.
No, the fees
That
are
are a way around.
Yes, so the fees are what gets a borrower. Is the customary fees, which are intended to be assessed for the lender to service the loan. But again, those are 200. Those can go up to 255%. So for flex loans, and I know I've already stated this, the total APR is 279.5%.
It's absurd.
That is.
Especially for someone who may not have a financial means.
Right, and if you had financial means, most likely you would not.
Right.
You would not borrow from.
Right. You have other resources.
Right.
No doubt about it. We have a couple phone calls, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We'll go ahead and dive in, so they're not waiting too long. Donna, welcome to OpenLine. Thanks for calling. Go ahead, Donna.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I wanted to make a comment and also ask a question. I, at one time, I had 2 payday loans out, and it took me almost 2.5 years to get it paid down. And when I finally got it paid down, they were like, well, do you want to rewrite? I said, no. I said, because, you know, to me, it took me that long to pay it off, and it's not worth it. But at the time, I was needing help with my light bill, and that's the comment that I had to make. But I think it's ridiculous that one has to go to those liens, but sometimes with the way the economy is, that's the only way people who are on fixed incomes can survive.
Sure.
And my other question is, why is it that payday loan places are in certain areas of town? You don't see them in Brentwood, you don't see them in Bellevue. They're in areas where, that the economy is not
Right.
what it should be.
Yeah,
and I think it's a trap, and it keeps you in debt, and that's not fair. And I'll hang up and see what you all have to say.
Thank you, Donna. Great points. We appreciate it, and I'm glad that you got out of that and learned. It's a lesson. It's a lesson learned for everyone. But we did mention that geographically, where a lot of these are located, there's a reason they're going to go where they think the business is.
Right. Yes.
And how do they, how do these companies respond if they are kind of challenged or criticized?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because I know you deal with it a lot.
We do.
Do you ever deal directly with these companies?
I deal with their lawyers.
Yeah.
So
and they have a lot of lawyers.
They do. They do. But I've never really asked them that question.
Right.
I mean, that is more of a geographical thing, as you stated. In Cookeville and the 10 counties where I work normally, we don't have that. There's one office of Advanced Financial in Cookeville. It's on their main street
right on the
there
main
in
drive.
Jefferson. Yeah.
Well, to me, it would be a moral question, that I would ask them is almost the old, so you can sleep at night, and there's nothing wrong with running a business ethically, fairly. It is a for-profit business. If everything's clear, they have every right to loan money. I have every right to go in and sign the paperwork and read and understand what I'm getting into. But again, like I said, it's a lot of layers to this. But we all know where a lot of these shops are located, and not just the big chains and the big companies. There's all sorts of other businesses that we know are really catering to, or you could say targeting, specific communities. Right. Listen, Donna, thank you so much for that. We got to take another break. I know we have another caller on. If you'd like to call in, share your experience, ask questions. We're going to talk more about, get into kind of the politics of this on Capitol Hill with these companies. And we're also going to talk more about specifically what the Legal Aid Society can do to help you. We'll be right back.